Hello and welcome to the World Touring Car 800 series. Here today at the Daytona road course. And if you're wondering why we're here, well, that's to investigate something that is very, very broken. And this is it, the Suzuki Cappuccino. But not just any Cappuccino. This one's got a 13B rotary from an RX-7 put in it. And to demonstrate just how overpowered that is, this is the event we've entered it in. 10 laps around the Daytona road course with fuel and tyre wear on, where it's going to be going up against 800 performance point rated cars. Wait, did I say 800? That's a problem. Better fix that. Perfect, that seems legit. Now we should be competitive. Regardless of how overpowered this car is, going up against opponents 200 performance points out of our league means we have to have this car set up just right. And that's where we hit a dilemma. Now, from what I can tell, to be remotely competitive, we need to be hitting times around the 143 to 144 bracket. And good news, that is actually possible with racing soft tyres. The problem is, however, to stay competitive, that only buys us one pit stop at lap 5. And if we want tyres to last for 5 laps, then we've got to take racing mediums. And there we have the dilemma. Okay, let's say we take the racing mediums. Now they're about 2 seconds a lap slower, and we still have to make a single pit stop for fuel, meaning that at the end of the race, we've got a 20-second deficit, at least. And I don't know where I'm going to find that time. Now, if we take racing softs, our back right tyre is going to be destroyed before we even hit the 4th lap. If we turn traction control to 1, we get a little bit more life out of it, having it blow up just after the start of the 4th lap. Now that's not much more, but we are looking for any advantage we can get. And it still means that 5th and 10th lap are going to be around 3.5 seconds slower since we're missing a tyre. Now overall, that adds up to a 7-second deficit, much less than the racing medium, and that is science. Now here's the tune that I've settled on for this car. Please keep in mind that it is designed specifically around this one event, but I do plan on making a more generic tune for this car in the future. And with that, let's begin this experiment on just how broken the balance for this car really is. Alright my little coffee, let's get to work. Beginning in last place of a rolling start, not exactly an advantageous position, but we don't waste any time quickly closing the gap on the Porsche, squeezing our way through on the inside, and then staying very wide on the hairpin, so that he doesn't murder us, as he has done to me through many previous failed attempts. Through the intersection of the track, we are throwing the car around the corners and braking incredibly heavily just to keep up with the opponents. It's no wonder that our tyres don't even last 4 laps. But once we hit that outer track, the Cappuccino's power allow us to catch up and fly past 18th place with incredible ease. Eventually catching up to the 4C, entering the chicane side by side, and while he may come out on top, there's another long straight. And with that, we're off. Now this car is just blisteringly fast. What we really need is another object to compare against. See? Blisteringly fast. Reaching the end of the first lap before slamming on the brakes, trying to get rid of about 340 kilometers per hour before we enter the back of a Ferrari. To help with car stability and tyre wear, I've set second gear quite long to protect me from losing traction. The downside is acceleration out of second gear corners, not that quick. And every corner on the infield, it turns out, is a second gear corner. Meaning it's very hard to make any aggressive moves here. But it's a price I just had to pay. But overtakes on the infield are not our strategy. All we've got to do is keep within striking distance. Because as soon as we hit that outer ring, as per the lap before, our sheer power and light weight is going to make short work of anything else on this racetrack today. as we set our sights on the trio ahead. Desperate to stay ahead, the Audi dives into the chicane. He's gonna get a slow exit, isn't he? Yep, our cars collide, almost sending me off into a spin, and costing me precious seconds I can't afford to lose. At least I get to make use of his slipstream, as our speed goes up, sending us in a search of our next opponents. Oh, that didn't take long, there's two of them. Right, now we're in search of our next opponent. The third lap has rolled around now. Yet again, we're back on the infield, not making any progress on the car in front, and slowly eating away our tyres and fuel, just waiting for the outer section where we can begin to have fun again, finally catching up to the opponent and relieving him of his position. He may follow us through the chicane, but by now, you know what happens at the end of it. And coming up to the end of the third lap, the fastest car on the track has to enter the pits for fuel. Or should I say, second fastest car, as we clock a 1:42, a number that exceeds our required lap times for the race. Right, fourth lap. Now we've got to make as much ground as possible here, because it's the last lap before we pit, where we've actually got 4 tyres to work with. Probably a sentence that's never been used in the racing industry before. But regardless, it's our strategy, so we need to use the first straight to get past this WRX, and then the second straight to build a buffer, so we don't get overtaken again before we reach the pits at the end of our 5th lap. So WRX on the first straight? Check. Creating a buffer through the second straight? Also check. And as we enter the 5th lap, screaming into the first corner represents the last of our back right tyre. From here on out, we're down to 3 wheels. Our focus now is minimising time loss through the lap. A beautiful paint job, and right before the pits. Okay, pit crew, fix the paint, put in fuel, and change the tyres, in that order. And then before you know it, we're back out on the track. Now we may be all the way back in 11th, with 5 laps to go, but I know for a fact that a decent portion of the other cars have another pit stop to go before the end of the race. So I wouldn't count us out just yet. For now, we're focusing on the BMW head, closing the distance so we can follow him through the chicane, knowing that right afterwards, that position is ours. And at the same time we notice, the bunch of cars I mentioned have entered the pits, moving us all the way up to 7th. Hello there again, WRX. Ow, okay, so it's like that. Right, time for a battle then. As I furiously chase him down from behind, only to realise that I've forgotten about a very horrible aspect of this car. Damn you, second gear, where's my power? As the Cappuccino lethargically accelerates, allowing the WRX to pull out a bit of a lead. But it doesn't matter how much of a lead our opponents get once we hit that outer ring, using the first section to take 6th place away from the WRX. And then on the second section, we close in and relieve 5th place of its position. And then not a lap later, we've caught up to 4th, following him into the chicane, risking a penalty with some dubious track limits, before completing the overtake, and with 3rd place in the pits, that moves us up into a podium spot. With 4th place hot on our heels, this is the last lap where we've got all 4 tyres to work with, as we're shunted out of the way by the new bronze medal holder. But karma, it's gonna get him one of these days, and we retake that position from him. And by some miracle, 1st and 2nd spent so much time fighting each other, they've used too much fuel, forcing them to pit. But with no tyres remaining, how are we gonna hold off second place? Luckily, Karma steps in and sends him careening off the track. And that allows us to very safely and slowly limp around to a victory. As usual, if you remotely enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.